Hey everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing the foundational theories. Earlier in the text, the authors explain that one of the biggest drivers of conflict is the way that we interpret another person's behavior. They emphasize that conflict isn't just about what someone does, it's about the meaning we attach to their actions. And that idea connects directly to attribution theory, which is expanded in the research of Fincham, Bradbury, and Scott. Their work shows that when people try to explain someone's behavior, especially during conflict, they rely on six key attributions. The first is locus, whether we think this cause is from inside the person or from the situation. The second is stability, which reflects whether we see the behavior as temporary or something that will always happen. The third is globability, which means whether we believe this issue affects just the situation or many areas of the relationship, and the remaining three dimensions are especially important in conflict. Intentionality asks whether we think the person meant to do harm. Controllability reflects whether we believe they could have acted differently, and motivation shapes whether we see their behavior as selfish or considerate. Together, these six dimensions form the mental framework we use to judge others. Fincham, Bradbury, and Scott found that when relationships are strained, people tend to make negative attributions across all six dimensions. We assume the cause is internal, that it's stable, that it affects everything, and that the person meant it, that they could have controlled it, and that they acted out of selfish motives. These patterns make conflict escalate quickly because they create a story in which the other person is the problem, not the situation. What stood out to me is how easily these attributions become self-reinforcing. Once we decide someone acted out of bad intent, every future behavior gets filtered through that assumption. This helped me understand why the textbook emphasizes perception so strongly. Effective negotiation isn't just about communication strategies, it is also about challenging the explanations we create in our own minds. When we shift our attributions, we open the door to empathy, curiosity, and more constructive problem solving. The textbook introduces Keltner's idea of frozen struggles. These are conflicts that get stuck in rigid emotional patterns, cycles of blame, defensiveness, withdrawal, and negative assumptions. Instead of addressing the real issue, people repeat the same reactions over and over, and each person's response reinforces the others. Keltner explains that strong emotions narrow our thinking, making us less flexible and more likely to assume harmful intent. That emotional freeze is what keeps the conflict locked in place. This is exactly where mediation becomes powerful. A mediator interrupts the frozen pattern by creating a structured, neutral space where each person can slow down, feel heard, and express their concerns without triggering the usual emotional reactions. Mediation helps people separate the issue from the emotional cycle, and it encourages them to shift from blame to understanding. By reframing assumptions, clarifying intentions, and guiding the conversation towards shared interests, a mediator helps thaw the emotional freeze that keeps the conflict stuck. What stands out to me is that mediation doesn't just solve the surface problem, it helps people break the underlying emotional script. Once that frozen pattern melts, people can finally see new options, communicate more openly, and move towards solutions that weren't possible before. The textbook introduces transformational theory as a way of understanding how conflict can become a catalyst for growth rather than just a problem to solve. The authors explain that transformational approaches focus on changing the quality of the interaction between people, shifting from fear and defensiveness and misunderstanding toward openness, recognition, and connection. Instead of simply resolving a specific issue, transformational work aims to reshape the relationship itself. This perspective emphasizes that conflict is not only about competing interests, it's also about unmet needs, identity, and the deeper patterns that shape how people relate to one another. When those underlying dynamics shift, The conflict often becomes easier to address because the relationship has moved into a healthier, more constructive space. What stands out to me is how different this is from traditional problem solving. Transformational theory suggests that the real opportunity in conflict is the chance to change how people see each other and how they communicate. It reframes conflict as a moment where people can develop empathy, strengthen trust, and build a more resilient relationship. That makes the theory especially powerful in situations where the goal isn't just to fix one issue, but to create long term positive change in how people interact.